You study for hours. You highlight, you reread, you take neat, color-coded notes, and in a week, almost all of it is gone. Sound familiar? Now picture the person next to you. They studied half as long, and somehow they remembered twice as much. It feels unfair. It isn't. They're not smarter than you. They're just using a faster method, and almost nobody teaches it. And to be clear, this has nothing to do with being a natural. Fast learners aren't born with a gift. They just stumbled onto how memory actually works, and you're about to learn it on purpose. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost everything you were told about studying is slow. Rereading, highlighting, rewatching the lecture, it feels productive, but most of it barely works. So in this video, I'll show you why studying feels so slow, and a simple 5-step system to learn almost anything in a fraction of the time. Stay for step 3. It feels completely wrong, and it's where the speed actually comes from. And this is worth getting right, because the hours you waste studying the slow way are hours of your life. Learn to study fast, and you don't just get better grades, you get your time back. Think about how much of your life you've spent studying. At a desk, highlighter in hand, eyes glazing over the same paragraph for the 3rd time. Now, imagine getting most of that time back and remembering more. That's what's on the table here. If you appreciate this type of content, gently tap that like button. Now let's get into it. First, let's understand why normal studying is so slow. The problem even has a name. Psychologists call it the fluency illusion. Here's how it works. When you reread something, it starts to feel familiar, and your brain quietly confuses that familiar feeling with actually knowing it. So you close the book, feeling confident. Then the exam comes. The page isn't in front of you, and it's just gone. You didn't learn it. You recognized it, and recognizing is not the same as knowing. Think about a song you've heard 100 times. You'd know it instantly if it came on. But could you sing every word from memory right now with no music? Probably not. That gap between recognizing and recalling is exactly where slow studying fails you. Highlighting and rereading build recognition. Tests demand recall. So you feel ready, and then you're not. Highlighting is the worst offender. It feels like studying. You're doing something, and the page fills with color. But all you've really done is decide what to reread later. You never tested whether any of it is actually in your head. Rewatching a lecture is the same trap. It all sounds familiar the second time, so you assume you know it. But familiarity is a feeling, not a skill. The only real test of learning is whether you can produce the answer when the material is gone. That's why passive studying wastes so much time. It feels good, but it produces almost nothing. So we're going to flip it, and the payoff is real time back. The average student spends hours in this slow loop. Cut the passive parts, and you get most of that time back. Here's the fast study method. 5 steps. Step 1. Get the big picture first. Before you dive into the details, spend a few minutes skimming the whole thing. The chapter titles, the headings, the summary, the shape of it. Most people open to page 1 and grind forward with no map. That's slow. Here's why the overview speeds things up. When you see the big picture first, your brain builds a frame, a kind of mental shelf. Then, as you learn the details, each one has a place to sit. Details attached to a frame stick fast. Details floating alone slide right off. It's the difference between putting books on a shelf and dumping them on the floor. Same books, totally different chance of finding them later. So spend 5 minutes on the map before you walk into the maze. Say you're learning a chapter on the nervous system. Before reading a word, look at the headings: brain, spinal cord, neurons, signals. Now you know the shape. So when you hit a detail about how a neuron fires, your brain already knows where it belongs. That's the frame doing the work. Step 2. Turn it into questions. Don't just read the material, interrogate it. Turn every heading into a question. Turn every fact into a why or a how. Here's the psychology. Your brain doesn't really wake up for statements. It wakes up for questions. A question opens a gap, and your mind can't stand an open gap. It leans in to close it. That little bit of tension is what makes the answer stick. So instead of reading, "The heart has 4 chambers," ask yourself, why 4? What would go wrong with 3? You'll remember the answer to a question you actually asked far longer than a question you just passed your eyes over. And you can do this with anything. A history date becomes, why did it happen then? A formula becomes, what is this actually solving? The moment you're chasing an answer instead of skimming a fact, your brain switches from asleep to awake. Step 3. This is the one that feels wrong. Test yourself before you're ready. Most people study until they feel confident, and only then, at the very end, do they test themselves. Do the opposite. Close the book early, before you feel ready, and try to pull the answers out of your memory. You will get things wrong. Good. That's the point. Because here's what almost nobody understands. Struggling to remember something is not a sign you're failing. It is literally the moment the memory gets built. Pulling information out of your brain strengthens it far more than putting information in. Scientists call it the testing effect, and it's one of the most powerful learning tools we know of. So stop rereading. Start recalling. Quiz yourself. Use flashcards. Cover the page and say it out loud. Anything that makes you retrieve. It feels harder than reading. That's exactly why it's faster. Here's the simple version. After you read a page, close it. Take a blank sheet and write down everything you remember. Everything. It'll feel uncomfortable and messy. That mess is the learning. Then, open the page and see what you missed. In 5 minutes, you'll have learned more than an hour of rereading would give you. And by the way, if you want an easy-to-follow way to build habits like this, there's a free 5-day brain training sample in the description. It turns this kind of thing into one simple page a day. Grab it after the video. Okay, back to it. Step 4. Space it out. Don't cram. Take the material and revisit it in short bursts across several days, instead of one marathon session the night before. I know cramming feels faster, but it isn't. Here's why spacing actually saves you time. Every time you almost forget something and then pull it back, the memory gets stronger and lasts longer. Cramming robs you of that. You learn it once, forget it within days, and have to learn it all over again from scratch. Spacing means you never fully forget, so you never fully relearn. 3 short sessions over 3 days beats 1 long session every time. Same material, a fraction of the effort, and it actually sticks. A simple rhythm works. Study it today, review it tomorrow, then again in a few days. Each review takes less time than the last, because you're not relearning, you're just topping it up. That's how people seem to remember everything. They're not gifted, and the tool doesn't matter. Flashcards, an app, or a folded piece of paper. What matters is the gap of time between reviews. That little bit of forgetting and then remembering is the whole engine. Step 5. Hunt your gaps. This is the secret speed weapon. After you test yourself, you'll have 2 piles. The stuff you knew and the stuff you missed. And here's what most people do wrong. They go back and restudy everything. That's a huge waste of time. Don't. Only restudy what you got wrong. The things you recalled, leave them alone. They're learned. Pour all your time into the gaps. This one shift can cut your study time in half because you stop rereading what you already know just to feel busy. Fast learners aren't studying more. They're aiming their time only at what they haven't learned yet. Picture 2 students the night before an exam. One rereads the whole chapter, front to back, feeling productive. The other tests themselves, finds the 6 things they don't know, and drills only those. One of them will walk in ready. Guess which? Now, one honest warning before you try this. The whole method feels harder than highlighting. It should. Highlighting is comfortable and passive. You could do it half asleep. This is active and effortful. Your brain actually has to work. But that discomfort is the entire point. That effort you feel is the feeling of real learning happening. Passive studying feels easy because nothing is happening. This feels hard because everything is. Most people feel that friction and decide they don't like studying this way and crawl back to the comfortable methods that don't work. Don't be most people. Push through the first few sessions, and you'll do in 1 hour what used to take you 3. And notice the trade you're making. A little more effort now and a lot less time overall. Passive studying is easy in the moment and brutal over the long run. You keep redoing the work that never stuck. This is the opposite. Slightly harder today, and then you're actually done. So let me make this dead simple. Next time you sit down to study, run the loop. Skim the whole thing first for the big picture. Turn the headings into questions. Close the book and recall before you feel ready. Revisit it in short bursts over the next few days. And each time, hunt only the gaps you missed. That's it. 5 steps. No fancy tools, no special talent. Just a smarter way to spend the same time. Do this once and you'll feel the difference immediately. You'll finish sooner and actually remember it. And you don't have to be perfect. Even doing 2 of these steps, say recall and spacing, will beat hours of highlighting. Start there if the whole loop feels like a lot. Because here's the whole idea. Studying was never about hours on the page. It's about how hard your brain works while you're there. Read passively and your brain is barely awake, so it learns slowly. Make it work, question, recall, struggle, and fix the gaps, and it learns fast. Your brain is a muscle. The harder you make it work, the quicker it grows. And this compounds. Save an hour on every study session and learn things twice as deeply. Over a semester or a whole career, that gap between you and everyone else becomes enormous. It'll look like you're just good at learning. People will assume you were always sharp, or that school just came easy for you. It didn't. You simply learned the one thing most people never do: how to make your brain do the work that builds memory and skip the work that doesn't. It works for anything: an exam, a language, a new skill at work, a hobby you've always wanted to pick up. The brain doesn't care what you're learning. Give it the big picture, make it retrieve, space it out, and fix the gaps, and it will learn. Now, learning is only one of 5 mental muscles you can train, alongside focus, discipline, emotional control, and recovery. I'm putting the whole system together in a complete brain training guide that's coming to this channel soon, so make sure you're subscribed, because that's the one you won't want to miss. I'm Simon, reminding you that your brain is a muscle, so let's train it every day. I'll see you in the next one.